Hello my friends, I hope that you guys are all healthy and doing really well. Today's video is really exciting for me because I'm a geek and I love the brain and neuroplasticity. So today's video topic is how to use the principles of neuroplasticity to learn vocabulary. So this is actually a topic that has been requested quite a lot over the months, and I've been putting off making this video because I kind of wanted to do my homework and I just haven't had a lot of time to do my homework, but now I did. So I really wanted to make sure that the information that I'm sharing with you guys is the most up-to-date and relevant information on neuroplasticity. And in case you're wondering why I'm so stuck on neuroplasticity, it's because that's actually how our brain learns and wires itself. So I'm not sure if you guys know this, but when we learn new information, the physical wiring in our brain changes. It physically changes. And there are principles underlying how these changes happen. And so, of course, I think it makes sense to use your time most efficiently and to use these principles to help you and to, again, just make best use of your time so that you're not spending hours a week, but actually only 5% of the hours that you're putting in are helping you reach your goal. That would be a massive waste of time. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 principles of neuroplasticity that you can apply to your vocabulary learning, and I hope that this will be really helpful and interesting for you guys. Just as a quick aside, if you guys haven't heard me mention this in previous videos, I used to work in neuro rehab. That was my first job after I graduated as a speech-language pathologist. And the job was transformative, and I feel so blessed to have done that job before getting into this specific field because it allows me to see things so differently. For example, sometimes I was working with a client back in the day who had a severe brain injury and they had been told, you will never be able to do X, Y, or Z. And using the principles of neuroplasticity, my team and I were able to see huge, tremendous progress with some of these individuals, even if their injuries had happened years earlier. So this is really, really, really powerful stuff. And that's why I'm so excited about it. It's because it works, okay? But anyhow, without further ado, let's get to principle number 1. So the first principle that you guys should really bear in mind as you're learning new vocabulary is called salience. And basically this means importance or relevance. So our brain is constantly bombarded with information. And so naturally, it takes a lot of that information, decides that it's garbage, and throws it away. So unless there's really importance to what you're studying, your brain is really going to tend to make the same assumption. So let's say that you're reading a dictionary in alphabetical order, and none of the words have any particular salience or importance. It's going to be much less likely that you're going to remember these definitions later on because your brain is just kind of an autopilot being like, yeah, new word, whatever, lots of noise, kind of similar to the noise of like a car passing by or my baby playing in the background. We need to give our brain a really specific reason for wanting to learn a specific set of vocabulary words. So that is really, really important to keep in mind. So whether you're interested in psychology or investing or woodworking or kayaking or building a car, whatever the case may be, look into your specific passion area and try to develop your vocabulary within that domain really, really intensely before moving on to anything else. And there are 1,000 different ways that you can do this. For example, you can use a TED Talk about a topic of interest, or an audiobook, or a physical book, or a Kindle book, or a YouTube video, anything. But really, again, try to immerse yourself in a specific vocabulary, and this will actually allow you to make associations between the topic and the different words, which helps as well. But for now, think salience, think importance. What does your brain care about? Your brain cares about what you care about, so pick your topic first. So the second principle that's going to help you remember vocabulary much more easily is to set aside uninterrupted time while you're working on learning vocabulary. So the research shows that if we're interrupted, it's going to take us 50% longer on average to complete a task, and we're going to make 50% more mistakes. Neither of those are particularly happy statistics, right? They're going to make the journey much slower, more tedious, less motivating, and it's going to be more likely that you're just going to give up if you find yourself making all these mistakes. And this is an incredibly easy way to kind of lower the chances of that happening. So whether you're, able to close the door to your office or turn notifications off on your phone, or just eliminate background noise, or give your child to its other parent for a little while, as best as you can, set aside some totally uninterrupted time, and it's going to make this process much more fruitful for you. The third strategy is to use as many of your senses as you can. So this one is really easy to overlook, but it's great because you can add on another sense really quickly and easily. And there's actually been research done across multiple domains that shows that when you use multiple senses, it's much easier to recall information later on. I think of all our senses, I think our sense of smell is the hardest to apply to this, but I think you can think of how you can use all your other senses to kind of help you encode the word. So you can obviously read the word, you can physically write the word, you can hear somebody saying the word, and this one I think is really important. Pay attention to what it feels like when you're saying the word. So if I'm saying the word apple, try to get a feel for the tension in your muscles, and all of that, again, is really, really useful sensory information that your brain is going to add at the moment of encoding, and it's going to help you retrieve that information later on. The fourth strategy is extremely important, and that is make it meaningful. Again, it relates to salience, but it's a little bit different. So whatever word that you're trying to learn, make it meaningful, either by attaching it to a mnemonic device or a song or a story, but you don't just want it to be floating around in isolation. And part of the reason is that we really like to make associations. So our brain has a really strong tendency to try to attach meaning to something that you already know. So again, if you are really interested in this story that you're watching and you hear your target word come up within that story, you're much more likely to remember it later on. And if you're thinking, well, no, like this is just a random word, it's not a part of a story, well, my friends, you can make up a story really easily, and it's going to be much more effective if you add a lot of emotion to the story. So either really strong positive emotion or strong negative emotion is usually going to do the trick very, very well. And our brains do this naturally. It's just how they work. So sometimes you're going to find that you remembered a word because it was attached to a story. So I'll give you guys a quick example of a time that this happened to me. So many years ago, back when I was doing my undergraduate degree in biochemistry, it was my first year, and I had become friends with this really nice girl named Lauren. And Lauren was super cool and very smart, and she wanted to be a doctor, even though I think she ended up being a lawyer. We lost touch, but anyhow, not important. So Lauren asked me if I would help her color her hair, and I told her that I've never helped anyone color their hair, and she said, no problem, but are you meticulous? And this is actually a word that I had no idea what the meaning was, and so I said, what does meticulous mean? However, I was a little bit self-conscious of the fact that this really cool, smart girl was using a word that I didn't understand. So I'm sure that on my end, definitely the emotions were much higher than just like totally neutral. And so when she told me, oh, meticulous means, do you have good attention to detail? Are you not going to leave a block of my hair blonde when I want the rest of it black? And I've forever remembered that word, and I very much tied the word into the story. So it's funny, even when I hear the word now, it makes me think of Lauren all those years ago, even though, again, we're not friends, we haven't kept in touch at all, but it was a really strong neuronal connection that formed there. And you guys can leverage this idea as well. So if there's a word that you're trying to learn, invent a story and make it really emotional, or make it really funny, or make it really something. And even though it's a made-up story, your brain won't really care, and you're going to be much more likely, according to the research, to remember that word later on. Our brains are also really good at learning language through music. And a really cool feature on the website lyrics.com is that you can type in a word and see all the lyrics that it comes up in. And when I was preparing for this video, I Googled GRE words, because again, that's a time in my life that I really had to study a bunch of vocabulary. And one of the top words that came up is placate. And so for fun, I was like, placate, is that going to come up in a song lyric? Of course it did. And one of the songs is a song by Aerosmith, and the lyric was placate and vacate your brain. So placate means to relax, to chill out, to soothe, like to placate a crying baby. And so for this one, for example, you can use the lyric and you can picture Steven Tyler just on a beach saying, placate your brain, folks, you know? So attach that strong visual image with like a funny kind of visual, and hopefully you'll now remember what placate means forevermore. Another way that you guys can make a word meaningful is actually using the sounds within that word. So recently, I don't know why, but I've been totally drawing a blank when I play with my baby and she has a bunch of like woodland toys, and I speak to my baby in Polish. I made a video about that a while back, and I just could not remember the Polish word for a buck. So she has like the baby deer and the moose and the mommy deer, and then there's a buck, like a deer with antlers. And I got to the point where I was like, maybe it's just sarna, maybe it's just deer, but it's not, it's jeleń. And eventually I just looked it up, but then I thought, okay, how can I ensure that I'll remember this? And to me, I just broke the word up into both of its syllables, and it would be jeleń. So in Polish, you can translate that to like, the lazy person is eating. So now I just have this association of the sounds, and I think, okay, this buck is like eating grass, because we eat fake grass, you know, when we're playing. So, and he's lazy because he's always laying around, right? Because it's a toy, he's not alive. So that's how I remember jeleń. Granted, this was a word that was already in my passive vocabulary, but using this trick, ever since I implemented, I've never forgotten the word jeleń. So again, I used the sounds. Another example of this is for the word zeal, for example. I also found that in the GRE list of words, and when you have a lot of zeal, it means you have like a lot of passion and enthusiasm. And I thought, what trick could I come up with if someone didn't know the word zeal? Well, in my case, I immediately thought of this word sounding a lot like seal. And in a movie that we watch really frequently at home, Happy Feet 2, there is a scene in which there's an elephant scene that's in trouble. I don't want to give it away for you guys, but the penguin goes to help him. And so, you know, let's say you've seen this movie, you could think the penguin had a lot of zeal to help the seal. Zeal, seal, they rhyme, obviously. And again, if you think of that part of the movie, which he really does have a lot of zeal, he really does everything to help this elephant seal, it'll be really easy for you to remember that zeal means a lot of enthusiasm, because you can picture Mumble doing what he's doing and helping the elephant seal. So that's just another example for you guys. There are many, many examples, and kind of making mnemonics and stuff like that is something that I've always loved to do. So if you guys have any words that you've had trouble remembering in the past, let me know in the comments below, and if I can, I'd be more than happy to help you come up with like a visual or a mnemonic or something for you to remember that word. And then strategy number 5 is lots of spaced repetition. And this one isn't super fun or glamorous, but it is crucial. So our brain is going to forget a lot of what it hears unless that information is reintroduced, and then after a certain amount of time goes by, you're re-exposing yourself. Amount of time goes by, re-expose yourself. You get the idea. And after you do this kind of cycle several times, then you're actually going to form a strong neuronal connection, not just this fuzzy trace. And again, you're going to be much more likely to remember something, not just an hour later, but a week later or months later. So there are many ways that you can do this. You can use physical flashcards and kind of quiz yourself every few hours. Or nowadays, there are many online kind of flashcard programs. One that someone recommended to me, actually, after I did the Polish learning video about my baby, was to use software which I believe is free called Anki. And it's the same idea. You kind of go through the flashcards, and any ones that you get wrong, I think they reintroduce those to you more frequently. So again, it's a really cool way, especially if you're more into the technology side of things, to use a software like that. If you're actually interested in how to remember the pronunciation of a word and not the actual meaning, I did make a video about that several months ago, so I'll put a link to that video for you guys in the description below. Feel free to check it out. All right, you guys, so let's do a quick recap of all of those strategies. So the first one was to pick something salient, important, relevant to your life, not just a random word you have no good reason to be learning. The second strategy was to set aside uninterrupted time. It will make the process go much more smoothly. The third strategy was to use all of your senses. The fourth strategy was to make it meaningful, either using stories, emotions, songs, mnemonics, anything to make the word meaningful. And then, of course, our final strategy just now was to use spaced repetition. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, let me know in the comments below. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching and for all your support. Take care. Bye-bye.